Have you ever had a dream so vivid that, for a few moments after waking up, you weren't sure if you were still dreaming? That eerie feeling where your mind struggles to separate reality from illusion. That's exactly what we're here to explore. What if life itself, the very thing we wake up to every day, is no more real than those dreams? Before we go too deep down this rabbit hole, let's start with the basics. When we talk about illusion, what do we actually mean? At its simplest, an illusion is something that appears to be real, but isn't. It's a trick of the senses, a distortion of perception. We've all seen optical illusions, those strange images that make lines appear crooked when they're actually straight, or objects that seem to change shape depending on how you look at them. These small deceptions prove that our brains don't always interpret the world as it actually is. If something as simple as a drawing can fool us, what about the rest of our reality? Science tells us that everything we experience, colors, sounds, even time itself, is just our brain interpreting signals. Take color, for example. That bright red apple, it's not actually red. The color you see is just your brain's way of processing how the apple reflects certain wavelengths of light. In a different spectrum, a bee sees something entirely different. So which version of the apple is real? Ours, the bee's, neither. Then there's the way our minds construct meaning. Ever heard of cognitive biases? Our brains love shortcuts, filling in missing details to make sense of the world faster. Sometimes this works well, like recognizing a friend's face in a crowd. Other times, it leads to errors, like seeing patterns that aren't there or misremembering events. In other words, our minds don't just perceive reality, they shape it. If our senses and brains are this unreliable, how much of what we call reality is actually real? That's the question that has fascinated philosophers, scientists, and dreamers for centuries. Some argue that what we see is just a thin layer of perception covering a deeper, unknowable truth. Others say that everything is exactly as it seems, and we're just overthinking it. So, where do we go from here? If reality is an illusion, then what's behind it? If we can't trust our senses, how can we ever know what's real? As we explore these ideas further, we'll see just how deep this mystery goes. And trust me, it only gets weirder from here. Let's do a little experiment. Hold your hand up in front of your face. You see it, right? You can feel it, move it, even whittle your fingers. Seems pretty real. But what if I told you that everything you're experiencing, your hand, the movement, the color of your skin, is just your brain interpreting electrical signals? And what if I told you that your brain sometimes gets it wrong? Our senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell, are the only ways we experience the world. But they're not perfect. Take vision, for example. Your eyes capture light, but they don't see anything on their own. They send raw data to your brain, which then assembles an image based on past experiences and assumptions. That's why optical illusions work. They trick the brain into seeing things that aren't really there. The famous dress debate, blue and black or white and gold, was a perfect example of how two people can experience the same image differently. But it's not just vision. Sound is just vibrations in the air, which your brain translates into meaning. Touch, that's just nerve endings sending signals. Even taste and smell are chemical reactions turned into perception. All of this raises an unsettling question. If our senses are just interpretations, how do we know they're accurate? Neuroscience has plenty of examples where the brain gets confused. People with synesthesia hear colors or see sounds. Those who suffer from phantom limb syndrome feel pain in a limb that no longer exists. Hallucinations, whether from mental illness, sleep deprivation, or psychedelics, show that the brain can create experiences that feel just as real as actual reality. And then there's the truly strange stuff. Quantum mechanics suggests that particles behave differently when observed, as if reality itself changes depending on whether or not we're looking. That raises a terrifying possibility. What if reality isn't just something we perceive incorrectly, but something that only exists because we perceive it? If we can't trust our senses, how do we know anything is real? What if reality isn't something we experience, but something our minds construct? Maybe the question isn't whether life is an illusion, but whose illusion we're living in. All right, let's get serious for a second. We've talked about how our senses can't always be trusted. But what does science say about reality itself? Is there a solid, unshakable foundation we can stand on? Or is everything just a grand illusion? Turns out, science isn't as reassuring as you might hope. Let's start with physics. Classical physics, the kind Newton talked about, treats reality as something objective. If you drop an apple, it falls. If you push a door, it opens. Simple, predictable, and rounded in cause and effect. But the deeper we've looked into the universe, the weirder things have become. Enter quantum mechanics, the branch of physics that deals with the tiniest particles in existence. Quantum physics is bizarre. It tells us that particles can exist in multiple places at once, that they can be entangled so that what happens to one instantly affects the other, no matter how far apart they are. And, perhaps most disturbingly, that particles don't even seem to exist in a definite state until we observe them. The famous double-slit experiment showed that when we aren't watching, particles behave like waves, spreading out and interfering with themselves. But the moment we observe them, they choose a definite position, as if reality is only solidified when someone is looking. If that sounds unsettling, buckle up, because Einstein himself wasn't a fan of this uncertainty. He famously said, "I like to think the moon is there, even if I am not looking at it." But quantum physics suggests that reality is somehow tied to observation, which raises the question, would the universe exist at all if there were no one here to perceive it? Then there's the nature of time. Einstein's theory of relativity showed that time isn't constant. It stretches and contracts based on gravity and motion. If you travel close to the speed of light, time slows down for you compared to someone on Earth. This means that two people can experience now differently. So what exactly is the present, if it depends on where and how you're observing it? Science, rather than giving us a clear answer about reality, keeps pointing toward deeper mysteries. Is time real, or is it an illusion created by consciousness? Does the universe exist independently of observation, or does observation create the universe? If reality isn't solid, then what is it? And here's the real kicker. If science itself suggests reality is more flexible than we thought, where does that leave us? What else might be possible? All right, let's get a little wild. What if everything you see, hear, and feel, every thought you've ever had, every moment you've ever experienced, isn't real in the way you think it is? What if we're all living inside a highly sophisticated simulation, a cosmic video game so advanced that we can't tell the difference between the code and reality? This idea, known as the simulation hypothesis, was famously explored by philosopher Nick Bostrom, who argued that if advanced civilizations eventually create hyper-realistic simulations of conscious beings, then statistically speaking, we're more likely to be inside one of those simulations than in the real world. Think about it. If future societies can create millions or billions of simulated realities, the odds that we're in the one true reality shrink dramatically. Sounds crazy, right? But here's the unsettling part. Science actually gives us reasons to take this idea seriously. For starters, let's talk about computational limits in physics. The universe operates in discrete, quantized units, tiny pieces of space and time, like pixels in a video game. In the same way a game has a resolution, the universe seems to have a minimum resolution, where reality stops being continuous and starts behaving like digital information. This has led some scientists to speculate that what we see as physical reality could be the output of an underlying computational process. Then there's the weirdness of quantum mechanics. Remember how particles only seem to choose a definite state when observed? That's eerily similar to how video games load only the parts of the world the player is looking at, saving processing power. Could the universe be doing something similar, rendering reality only when we need to experience it? Elon Musk, who's never shy about big ideas, has also weighed in, suggesting that the probability we're in base reality, as opposed to a simulation, is 1 in billions. If technology keeps advancing, and humans eventually develop the ability to create full immersion simulations indistinguishable from reality, wouldn't those simulated beings believe their world is real too? So far, we've looked at scientific theories about reality, but humans have been wrestling with this question long before physics came along. In fact, some of the oldest philosophies in the world have already suggested that life is an illusion. But instead of pixels and quantum uncertainty, they speak of Maya, the grand illusion that keeps us from seeing the truth. In Hinduism and Buddhism, Maya refers to the deceptive nature of the world. It's not necessarily that reality doesn't exist, but that the way we perceive it is distorted. Think about a dream. While you're in it, it feels real, but the moment you wake up, you realize it was just an illusion. What if life itself is the same way? What if everything we believe is real? Our identities, our desires, even our fears, is just part of a dream we haven't woken up from yet. This idea plays a huge role in Advaita Vedanta, a Hindu philosophy that argues that individual existence is an illusion. According to this view, we're not separate beings at all. We only think we are. Beneath the illusion of individuality, there's only Brahman, the infinite, formless reality that connects everything. You, me, the universe. It's all just different waves in the same ocean. The moment you realize this, the illusion dissolves, and you see the world for what it really is. Buddhism takes a slightly different approach. It teaches that the illusion isn't just about the physical world, but about the self. We cling to the idea that we are fixed, independent beings moving through time. But according to Buddhist thought, the self is constantly changing, just a collection of shifting experiences, like a flame that keeps burning but never remains the same fire. The more we attach to this false idea of self, the more we suffer. Letting go of it leads to nirvana, the state of liberation beyond illusion. And then there's Zen, which loves to challenge our perception of reality in the strangest ways. Ever heard of the story of Zhuangzi's butterfly dream? The ancient Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi once dreamt he was a butterfly, happily fluttering around. But when he woke up, he asked himself, was I Zhuangzi dreaming I was a butterfly? Or am I a butterfly now, dreaming I am Zhuangzi? It's the kind of question that makes your brain hurt, but that's the point. How do you know which reality is real? Could waking life be just another dream? And if life is an illusion, does that mean nothing matters? Or does it mean everything does? Unlike Western philosophy, which often seeks to prove reality, Eastern thought challenges us to experience it differently. It suggests that instead of asking whether life is real, we should ask, who is the one perceiving it? And that question, it leads us even deeper into the mystery. You've gone this far, and there's no turning back now. Treat this as your save point. Subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking videos like these. Okay, buckle up, because this one sounds straight out of science fiction, but it's a real theory physicists have been wrestling with. What if everything you experience, your body, the stars, even time itself, is just a projection from a deeper level of reality? Welcome to the holographic universe theory, an idea so strange that it might actually explain some of the biggest mysteries in physics. Let's start with the basics. A hologram is a three-dimensional image projected from a two-dimensional surface. You've probably seen them on credit cards or fancy sci-fi movies. Light creates the illusion of depth, even though there's no real substance to it. Now, here's the wild part. Some scientists believe that our entire universe works the same way. The idea comes from black hole physics. Back in the 1970s, physicists like Stephen Hawking realized that black holes aren't just cosmic vacuum cleaners. They actually store information on their surfaces. This led to the idea that maybe information about the entire universe could be stored on a distant surface, like the boundary of space itself, while everything we experience is just a projection from that cosmic information. Think of it like a video game. The character inside the game believes their world is three-dimensional, but in reality, it's just a projection of data stored on a hard drive. Could our universe work the same way? Could everything we see, from galaxies to our own thoughts, be encoded on some vast cosmic surface, playing out like a hologram? Mathematically, this theory actually holds up. Researchers have found that some complicated physics equations that describe three-dimensional space can be rewritten in purely two-dimensional terms. almost as if reality has a hidden code running beneath it. Even quantum physics, with its weird probability waves and non-local connections, starts to make more sense when viewed through a holographic lens. But here's where it gets really weird. If reality is a projection, then what exactly is real? If everything we experience is just encoded information unfolding in a particular way, then what does that say about consciousness? Are we just part of the code? And if so, who or what is running the projector? Some thinkers even argue that this theory connects with ancient spiritual ideas. If reality is just a projection, doesn't that sound an awful lot like Maya, the illusion spoken of in Hindu and Buddhist philosophy? Could science be accidentally rediscovering something mystics have been saying for thousands of years? And here's the ultimate question. If life is a hologram, is there a way to step outside of it? Or is the illusion all there is? We've talked about illusions, quantum mechanics, and holograms, but there's one thing we haven't fully explored yet: your own mind. What if reality isn't something that just exists, but something that is actively shaped by consciousness? Let's start with a simple question. Where does reality happen? You might say, out there, in the physical world, but is that true? Every color you see, every sound you hear, every sensation you feel, it's all happening inside your brain. Light waves don't have color. Sound waves don't have music. Reality, as you experience it, is constructed by your mind. In a way, you're not perceiving the world, you're creating it. Science backs this up in some pretty strange ways. Take the observer effect in quantum mechanics. We know that at the quantum level, particles exist in a state of probability until they are observed. Only then do they decide on a definite state. This raises a disturbing question. Does reality even exist without an observer? Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that consciousness plays a role in shaping the physical world, that reality isn't truly real until it is observed. If that sounds bizarre, think about dreams. When you're dreaming, your mind builds an entire reality around you. People, places, even time itself. And in the moment, it all feels completely real. But when you wake up, you realize that you are the one generating all of it. So here's a question. How do you know this reality isn't just another kind of dream? Philosophers have been wrestling with this for centuries. Idealists like George Berkeley argued that the physical world doesn't exist independently of consciousness. Rather, everything exists as an experience in the mind. Even modern neuroscientists admit that what we call reality is just the brain's best guess at what's out there, based on limited sensory input. But if consciousness is responsible for shaping reality, that opens up a much bigger question. What happens when we stop perceiving it? Does the universe still exist when we're not looking? And if life is an illusion, then who or what is dreaming it into being? If the mind is the key to reality, then understanding consciousness might be our best shot at figuring out what's real and what isn't. But here's the catch. Can we ever truly understand the thing that's doing the understanding? What if life itself is just a dream? Not your dream, but someone or something else. This idea isn't new. The ancient Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi once had a dream that he was a butterfly. When he woke up, he wondered, was I Zhuangzi, dreaming I was a butterfly? Or am I a butterfly now, dreaming I am Zhuangzi? This might sound like a simple riddle, but it actually asks a deep, disturbing question. How do you know that the reality you are experiencing right now is not just another dream? Think about it. When you're in a dream, it feels real. You don't know you're dreaming until you wake up. And sometimes, even after waking, the dream lingers, making you question what's real and what's not. So, if dreams can feel real, who's to say that what we call real life isn't just another kind of dream? Even in modern science, there are hints that reality might not be as independent as we think. The observer effect in quantum mechanics suggests that reality behaves differently when it is being observed, almost as if it is reacting to consciousness itself. Could that mean we are living in a reality that only exists because it is being dreamed into existence? But here's the big question. If we are inside a dream, whose dream is it? And if that dreamer were to wake up, what happens to us? Or maybe, just maybe, we are the dreamer, and the moment we realize it, we become free. If life is an illusion, then what does that mean for, well, everything? Does anything truly matter, or does this realization set us free? Let's break this down. If reality isn't what we think it is, if it's a simulation, a dream, a projection, or some grand cosmic illusion, does that make our experiences meaningless? Some might say yes. If we're just pixels in a program, or waves in a vast ocean of consciousness, then why care about anything? Love, suffering, ambition, all of it could just be flickering shadows on a wall. Here one moment and gone the next. But here's the paradox. If life is an illusion, then doesn't that make it even more incredible? Think about a dream. When you're dreaming, you experience joy, fear, wonder, sadness. The dream may not be real in the conventional sense, but does that make those emotions fake? No. The experience itself is real, even if the world it happens in isn't. The same could be true for life itself. Even if this is all an illusion, that doesn't make it meaningless. It just makes it more mysterious. Many spiritual traditions argue that realizing life's illusory nature isn't a reason to despair. It's a reason to awaken. Buddhism teaches that once you see through the illusion, you're free from suffering. You stop clinging to things as if they are permanent, and instead, you engage with life fully, knowing that every moment is fleeting. Hinduism suggests that the world is a dream of Brahman, and the goal isn't to escape, but to recognize that you are the dreamer. And in modern existentialism, thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre argued that life has no inherent meaning. However, that means we are free to create our own. So, maybe the question isn't, does anything matter, but rather, what do you choose to make matter? If reality is fluid, then maybe the meaning of life isn't something we find, it's something we decide. And that, in itself, might be the greatest mystery of all.